Hey, in today's episode, I am joined with John Moore from 305 Spin. He's been in the business since 1993 and he has helped a lot of businesses grow through the power of technology. I'm so excited to learn a lot from him, and I am sure that you will learn a lot from him as well. So keep tuning in. Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Christy Yoder, host of the Master Delegator Podcast. The Master Delegator Podcast is for busy and overwhelmed entrepreneurs who want to learn how to become effective in the area of delegation and learn how to hire great virtual assistants to help them scale their business and have more time and freedom. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing and don't forget to click the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. All right, let's get started. All right. Well, hey, John, thank you so much for being on the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Christy?
I'm doing awesome. It's a little bit cold here in Ohio, which I'm used to it already, but thank God we don't have heavy snow yet, which you told me earlier that you're having snow.
Here in Colorado.
Yeah, it's snowing
right
there
now.
in Colorado right now. Yeah. What's the temperature there?
It's in the low 20s, so it's not bad.
Low 20s, yeah. Yesterday we had 48 if I'm not mistaken, but now we're at 28 right now. So it's like we dropped 20.
Well, you'll probably get that cold front that we had. It was in the single digits here for about 4 or 5 days in a row. So.
Oh my gosh, I don't like snow. I hate it. Anyway, before we dig deeper to some of the questions that I have for you, and before we talk about how you were able to grow your business, because you've been in business for like more than 10 years. Am I right?
We started in 93, so this is our 29th.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to learn a lot from you. So why don't you
As the internet. No.
Yeah, I know. So you have to really tell me, how did you start your business? So tell me about your journey and how you started your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, I started really early. So even in high school, I started my own company doing DJ and sound systems, and then kind of, I was doing already some computer stuff way back early on, and helping people when computers were barely computers. And then I ended up in New York to get my master's and worked for a company on Broadway that booked national tours of Broadway shows. And so my job there initially was getting all their theater surveys into like a, Wang mini computer system so they could have data to share with touring companies and stuff. And then through that, then I started working with marketing companies. I thought, oh, technology and marketing, that's sort of a, interesting thing. How do you use technology? And then being from the Midwest, it was like, how could you use that technology to help, local and regional brands compete on a national level? And so back then it would have been like shortcutting print, short color runs on color printing. You're making short runs. So instead of doing, big print jobs with films, we actually had, our 2400K baud modems that we would send FTP files to Atlanta to a company, so we'd start the file before we left, and it'd be done by the next morning, and then they would send us, a box of 250 color brochures or whatever. And then in 94, I actually was able to go to the very first Internet World Conference in San Jose, which is really interesting looking back, because there was, the founders of Yahoo and all these people that were just sort of getting the internet going. And that's where I decided, that the internet was going to be a good marketing tool, and then started building our first websites, and so we were off and running.
Nice. That is awesome. So tell me about your business now. Like, what is it exactly, and what do you do for your clients?
Well, so we've grown a lot. Started out just sort of being websites and marketing on the internet. And then late 90s, we started doing some hosting, and we decided that, one of the worst parts about building websites was all the updates you had to make for clients. So then we started building custom CMSs before there really was custom CMSs, so they could make their own updates, so we didn't have to spend time doing that. And then we got really more into back office and sort of, we used to call it web enabling. So, a company has all this data in-house, they can't get it outside, their IT is a roadblock. And then so we would build a portal or external website and then, hook into their data. And so that's where our API development started. And then in the mid 2000s, we really got starting involved with the wireless companies. And that's pretty much our core group of clients now is, companies like Pure Talk and H2O Wireless and AirVoice Wireless and Insurance Wireless and lots of wireless companies. And then we'll do everything for them from websites to back office, connecting with, the carriers, AT&T, Verizon, or Sprint, or T-Mobile, whoever. And then SEO and SEM, we really got involved early in SEO, and then SEM. And so being technical, we can do a pretty good job of really making SEO work. And then that all kind of accumulated this year with, we started a project, 2021, I guess now we're already 2022, but softserveseo.com is kind of our self-serve portal. So we built kind of, took our knowledge and our experience and put it into a sort of a, you log in, it's got all the metrics you need, you can figure it out, tutorials and stuff. So that's kind of where we're going. We still do the really, white glove type SEO and SEM service, but then there's just a lot of companies that they just need guidance and the tools to be able to do a good job. And so that's kind of our focus, is how do we sort of pass on sort of our knowledge base, and, help more people. So
I see. So you are a marketing agency, but you focus mainly on providing website services, SEM and SEO.
Yep, yeah, pretty much. And we're small. We have offices in Missouri and Colorado, but then we have a lot of, of course, now we're working remotely is cool. We were doing it, 10 years ago, it was just, whatever. It was just a way to finding the best people that may not be, where our offices are at, So we have good processes in place to work with remote. So now we've got, I don't know, I think we're working with people in 2 or 3 or 4 countries now. So
nice. That's awesome. So you started your business in 93 and now it's 2022.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have different challenges back in 93 and different challenges currently, now that we are in the millennium.
Well, the technology changes all the time.
That's true.
And I've always said, the best people you can hire are those that really, have learned how to learn. Because because our business doesn't stand still, and not that we jump all over the place. We don't want to be bleeding edge, but you got to keep up with it as well. And so and we're really good with working with people that sort of help us get to that next step, right?
That's true.
And we are a value added company, right? People hire us to bring value, and we're solutions oriented. So if a really good client is somebody that really understands and appreciate what we bring to the table. A client that wouldn't be a very good client is somebody who just wants to tell you exactly what to do and how to do it, right?
Exactly,
and not that we can't do that, but we need to add value, to what they are, and hopefully see their challenges and needs in a different way to maybe provide them a better solution to help make them more money in the long run. So
I agree. So you mentioned earlier that you put processes in place, and I'm glad to hear that, because you started in 93 and now it's 2022. So I'm just so glad to hear that you have processes in place so that it's easy to delegate a task to somebody else. And especially now that we are most of the people are working remotely, it's kind of hard to train somebody virtually if you don't have processes in place. So from 93 to 2022, is there a constant challenge that you are still trying to solve?
Well, our biggest challenge
was there
biggest
a challenge?
has always been resources.
Resources.
Hours. So we're kind of in our world traditionally in software development is time and materials. So you basically have X amount of hours to produce X amount of dollars, and so you have those people, and so but always having enough resources, having enough overhead built in there for either adding clients or taking on new work, or things get behind and you got to catch up, and that's always the biggest problem. And I think it's actually even more challenging now, sort of everybody kind of going remote, and some of these new freedoms that people have found, especially I think in the younger generations. We have people that'll work for 2 or 3 months and say, hey, I'm out of here. It's like, but it's not like, and we do have employees that we've been working since 2000. But, I don't think that's the case anymore. A lot of people have 2 or 3, 4 different jobs by the time they're 30 now. So there's more of that transitioning. So we have to be more flexible in sort of how we deal with that, and try to keep the best people around, but just understanding that there's more of a tendency now to sort of move on, to be
that's true.
then no matter what your culture is or how much you're doing or what you're paying, at the end of the day, it's really down to personal, decisions and what their interests are. So
Yeah, that's true. And if there's someone who decided, to leave your company, that doesn't mean that they don't like your company. It's just that they know that they have different options,
correct.
and especially now that everyone's virtual and you can easily access everything online, it's easier to find something else online as well, And I feel like it's just a matter of like, because as a business owner, I noticed that it's not that they don't like your company, it's that they know that they have different options. And especially with us millennials, I feel like we really want to find something that we are passionate about. But the thing is, once we find something that we are passionate about, we commit to it and we give our best to it. So if you find somebody who's like that, who's passionate with the website SEO and SEM, I feel like you find gold, because it's hard to find somebody who's committed to your business. And especially now here in the States, like a lot of restaurants are closing, cutting down their hours because people just don't want to work physically anymore.
Well,
They
the service
want.
industry is really taking the biggest hit of anybody. I mean, that's the hardest one, because you just can't sort of, we can sort of reposition ourselves to some extent, right? It used to be, it was always about money, and now it's not really about money. It's about wellness and lifestyle and opportunities and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and this is getting back to where it started, was about processes, and that's something, and that's an ongoing thing, So, what are your standard operating procedures? We use Loom a lot now because you can literally take and record, this is how something's done, and so the onboarding process now, because you literally are possibly onboarding more people than you used to in a given amount of time, and so it's important to get that, and that's an ongoing everyday thing. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get all our processes documented, and documented in such a way that, like you say, remotely and hand them off. Like we have a new person starting on Monday, and so, I handed her off yesterday a Dropbox with, spreadsheets that got links to the Loom videos, by task or whatever. And that's helpful, but it's still not the end all, And then there's, knowing about the clients and the personalities of the clients. And,
Right.
some clients push harder than other clients, and, how
Oh,
responsive
tell
you
me
need
about
to
it.
be. So there's still a lot of organic learning that goes on that you only get by being involved.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to have a process, but don't let your process get stuck. You have to always update your processes whenever there's changes in your company or there's changes in the things that your process is involved in. So I think that's a good point. If you grow as a person, if you want your company to grow, then your processes need to grow as
Go
well.
with it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they need to keep up with all of the stuff that you are doing. So tell me about the achievements that you have had so far.
As far as a company,
Yeah, in general, as
well,
a person, company,
Well,
business
I would
owner.
say, a biggie is that, being in business and what we do for 29 years, it's a pretty big achievement. And considering we had, the dot-com crash, we had 9/11, we had the 2008 recession, and
Oh yes,
COVID. I mean, we've seen a lot, which has affected a lot of things.
you've been through it all.
Um, and I think, the key to that, is being efficient, being lean, having good relationships with clients. I think that's the biggest thing. Clients are really about relationships. I mean, we have, one client's been a client since '97, and they're a pretty big company. And it's just, when you build trust, I've always said, business is easy. It's about communication and expectations. And communicate well, don't overpromise, don't make ridiculous deadlines, and then you set reasonable expectations, and then you meet or exceed those expectations. You're a rock star day in and day out. I mean,
Right.
and then when things do go wrong or something's late or it breaks or whatever, then you've built that trust. And then they just trust you that you're going to take care of it, as opposed to their hair being on fire and, screaming, over emails at you or whatever, So I think it's important to have a balance of compatible clients that you can work with, that you can build a relationship. I mean, a lot of our clients, before I couldn't travel every other week or every month. I mean, our business meetings were more, dinners and cocktails than, sitting in a boardroom. I mean, because they're just friends. I mean, they're just, almost, 20 some years of being a friend now, as opposed to just being, a C-suite person on the other end
Right.
of it, and I think that's the key. And I see a lot, it's real interesting with Twitter and seeing a lot, like say the millennials and kind of the new generation and Web3, about all this stuff, it's all about, build a product, get to a certain point, get your monthly recurring revenue up, sell it, make your million, you retire at 28 or whatever. And that's all good, but we've never been really driven, and maybe this is my fault or not being a good entrepreneur, but we've never been driven by revenue and profit. We've always been driven about relationships with clients and the success that we have and what we do for them. And and I'll see, like what other people are charging for something we do, and I guess we could charge that as well, but it's not so much based on that. It's based on the client not having to worry about, do we want to ask 305 to do something, but that means it's going to cost a lot more money. Well, they just, that's not a part of our conversations. I think, price and value are important things, but at the end of the day, it's what are you really getting? Are you getting the value added service that you're paid for? So we're never the cheapest, we're never the most expensive, but we're always a good value, and we build, that trust with the client, to where they can rely on us. And I think that, maybe that's kind of old school.
I don't think it is.
It works,
Yeah, I mean, it may be old school classic, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work nowadays. And relationship, I agree with you. Relationship is, I think, one of the most important things when it comes to growing your business. And I mean, as a business owner as well, I don't focus on revenue and profit. I focus on adding value to our clients, because I believe that when you put your clients first, when you have good relationships with your clients, your revenue, everything else will follow.
But go with it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and you
because
still keep track of that. You still have to be good at finances. You still have to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, but don't make it like your
be the driving force.
Yeah, it cannot be your vision. It should be something bigger than money, right? And because if your vision for your business is to have this and this and this, 1 million revenue, a year, then that's what you're going to chase. You're gonna forget about your team members. You're gonna forget about your clients. You're gonna forget about your family and even your sanity, because you're chasing for money, and it's hard to chase money.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and so when you mentioned about 9/11, 2008 recession was in 2008, right? Yeah, I wasn't an entrepreneur yet during 2008, so I don't remember it. So 2008 is when we had recession here in the States,
right?
And other stuff that other unexpected happenings in the world. So what was your first reaction as an entrepreneur, and how did you handle it? Were you like, oh no, 9/11, oh no, recession, I'm gonna close down my business, especially now COVID, we're in the season of the pandemic, and it's like it's not really uncharted waters, since we have had something similar in the past. We had SARS, flu, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So what was your first reaction, and how did you handle it?
Well, so typically whenever there's a recession, especially, so most of our budgets are based on marketing dollars. So oddly enough, companies will cut marketing dollars. And so that's what, will happen, something like that. And so we've always been a believer, and there's a lot of, case studies that show it's true that, that's the time though when you actually want to increase marketing, because there's opportunities then. Not all your competitors are going to do that. They're mostly cutting back, pulling back. And so we really look at then working with clients and identifying opportunities. The same during the pandemic as well. Early on, our smaller customers were, really scaling back and didn't know how to react, and just, everything, they're just over. And it's like, well, wait a minute, but here's opportunities. What are the opportunities? So for restaurants that had never done to go before, all of a sudden now they had a new revenue stream. And then when they got sort of back to then table dining, they had this additional revenue stream coming out of it. And there's several examples of that. So we would work with clients and say, hey, we need to look at this, figure out what are your opportunities, and also then what are the technological challenges of working remotely. So do we need to update your portal? Do you need a portal? Do you need to have a way to coordinate, your people? And so we always look at those challenges as really being opportunities. It may only be 1 or 2 or 3% gains, but it's better than having 5 and 10% losses, right? And so, and I think then again, that's that value added thing.
Right.
And you have to understand your client, you understand their consumer, you have to know really what they do, how they do it. And especially with some of our larger corporate customers that had a really hard time going remotely. I mean, they had employees that had been in offices, for 30 years, and then and it was just hard. And so we had to change the way, even like managing projects. So you might say, okay, we're gonna have this call, and here's, we need to hear, here's a proof of a website, you need to review it, and your team needs to get together. Well, they were no longer getting together. They weren't seeing each other at the water cooler, or, having meetings and whatever. And so then we just had to figure out that, and we use Teamwork for our project and task manager. We just had to up the number of how many times we're asking about stuff. Right. Because it'd be like, oh yeah, okay, thanks for asking. Now I need to talk to, Christy and ask her, if she's had a chance to look at it. Well, if you waited a week or 2 weeks, then the time got extended, and then the project would get drawn out, and you start missing deadlines and budgets. So, we had to also learn how to work to help them work better. So,
that's really awesome. So were you the one leading that, or you have somebody else doing that for your company? No, that was
pretty much me, because the client stuff pretty much comes down to me. So we have kind of clients, project manager, programmers, developers, web, like WordPress type developers or application developers, and then designer and SEO and SEM people. So it's like, how do you do that? And then of course, during that time, then is when we reached out to you guys, about helping us also with some resources. Because like I said earlier, resources is always the biggest challenge. So how do you find the best and most compatible resources that can, help sort of pick up some of those loads? And so I always look at it in your daily task, what is it, something that, pretty much is sort of me that I really need to do? And then what are the things that you can transfer, right, to other people, and or delegate, right? And what are the things that just shouldn't be on your list? You just need to trash them, you need to get rid of them.
Exactly.
And then it works kind of down the line. So then if you have, a project manager or a programmer, the same thing. Are there things in their daily tasks that they need to either delegate to somebody else, maybe somebody coming up underneath them, or transfer off or whatever, or just get off their list? Maybe they shouldn't be, developers shouldn't be dealing with SEO stuff, maybe, on that
right.
paper, so how do you do that? So anyway, so that's what we were, continually looking at. And then by having the opportunities of the remote people or virtual assistants or whomever, it's like, what things can you transfer, off then to somebody else, to then free up some of that additional time. And so
I like what you said about compatibility, finding that right person, I want to use the word compatible much better than the word right, because I feel like you really have to find the compatible person for your company, like the perfect fit for your company. The past few weeks, months, I have been learning that there may be someone who is compatible for your company or for a client, but that person may not be compatible for somebody else. Like right now, we run our agency through Teamwork. So we make sure that each of our virtual assistants is a team player. And I noticed that whenever there's a VA that we assign to a client, and that client loves the VA, that doesn't mean that other clients would love that VA as well, because it depends on our client's need and personality.
Exactly. It's experience and personality.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I like it when you said compatibility, because I think that's one of the most crucial things when you are delegating. You have to find the right person that is compatible for the project or task that you want to assign to the VA. And so let's talk about delegation. So you started in 93. when did you learn how to delegate? Is delegation
Well, it starts,
was a
when you
thing in the
start as
past?
an entrepreneur, you start out doing everything yourself, which is, is great. And a lot of entrepreneurs, have the abilities and the skills to do a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, if you want to scale your business, then, you have to be able to, scale the team, and that's important. And so, how do you, at what points do you do that? At what points do you hand stuff off? I mean, I used to, build websites, and I used to program databases and all that. I haven't done that for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is a good thing too. I mean, I started as a VA as well. Like everything that my VAs can do, I can do all of them, but I'm not expert at everything. And if I want to scale, I need to delegate some of the tasks that I'm doing for my clients so that I can focus on strategic thinking and sales.
Correct.
Yeah. And so at what point did you learn how to delegate? Let's say 93. Did it take you like 5,
So
10
I would say it's
years to
probably right
delegate?
around, so around, probably 96, 97 is when we added some pretty big clients. We started doing 95, 96. Somehow we got into the Memphis market. We started working with actually the Blues Foundation there, and then got a presence there. And then that led to working with an agency. I mean, at one point in the late 90s and early 2000s, we had like 60 clients in Memphis. And I used to think it was always because we were really smart and really good and stuff. But actually I figured out what it was is in Memphis, you had FedEx, which was growing like crazy. There was a big Nike office there. There was International Paper. There were big companies there, and there were no IT people. I mean, all the IT people were making their money working for these big companies and not building websites. And I just thought, we were great. But it turns out that we just fit a need. And to be able to handle that growth that quickly, then that's when we had to delegate and have more people and developers. So it was really brought upon, I was doing a really good job in sales and getting work going. And honestly, for all this time, we've never really marketed ourselves. It's always been referrals. But once you get into a market, that was actually a geographic market.
Right.
But we were doing, like the Orpheum Theater and the Memphis Zoo and the Memphis Botanic Gardens, and we were doing big clients,
Wow.
Civil Rights Museum. And so, we had that presence, and then you pick up all this other work. And then with the Blues Foundation, which was really interesting, that's where we picked up like Alligator Records and Tone Coal Records and Blind Pig Records. We did all the Animal Blues labels, I think. But and we just had all these, and then musical artists, North Mississippi All Stars and Susan Tedeschi, and we just we were just growing in these markets, but it was always referrals.
Wow.
And there wasn't a lot of people that had that sort of expertise back then, focusing in the music industry. And then and even like with Alligator Records, record labels back in the 90s, early 2000s, it was all mostly physical product, CDs and albums and so on. And so we built them online stores. And then we ended up building, this was before Constant Contact and MailChimp, we actually built a email program for, so they could do mailing, manage mail lists and follow-ups and all these things that just didn't exist like off the shelf, or off the cloud. And so, and then that got us into casinos because we were able to pass multiple barcodes through emails. And it was just,
Wow.
So it was kind of technology as well as sort of being on top of it. But
yeah. And you're like the pioneer of digital marketing or digital technology.
Well, we were really early on it. And,
yeah.
And we were even doing like webcasts. We would build servers and haul them into the Orpheum Theater and do, online webcasts with broadcast.com, which was, of course, Mark Cuban. That's Mark Cuban, who owns the basketball team. That's where he started. We were working with his assistant.
Wow.
Streaming over, DSL connections out of the basement of the Orpheum Theater for like the Handy Awards and, doing stuff at the Kennedy Center and the House of Blues in LA. And, it wasn't our main business, but it's just because we were just technology web people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great story. And
it's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. So you mentioned earlier that you were growing your company through referrals before. How about now? What are the strategies?
Mostly referrals. I mean, right now, honestly, again, that resource thing, to be able to scale and have the right people, we just can't add and we don't, it's never been our goal to add say 20 clients a year. We're really picky about our clients. So last year, we added 2 really good clients, and they're both big telecommunication, wireless companies. But but that's been the scale. Now, whether that's the best way to do business, it'd be really great, for Christy to come in here and say, hey, we give you all these resources and now, go crazy.
Tell me what you need. And I'll find them for you.
But what I'm saying is that I don't think it's unlimited, and that's why we like this soft serve SEO project. We can only handle so many SEO clients a month, but now through this portal we could easily add 100, 200, 500 SEO clients, by having this sort of self-serve mechanism. So that's our
SEO
goal.
is no joke. SEO is
no
joke.
So important. That's one of the most important things in website marketing.
Especially when you implement SEO, like, it's not a short-term project. It's a long-term, it's a lifetime project. As long as you have your business, you have to have SEO. And
that's what we designed our portal around, was understanding those pain points and working with the clients. So the biggest pain points of people doing their own SEO is sort of, one, the technical knowledge. So we bring that to the table with that experience. The other is ongoing. You have to have a program, a maintenance. And so we build in the portal, like every week you get a reminder to do this, and then every month, and this report, awesome. What's up and what's down, because we'll have a client come and say, hey, come in and fix your SEO, and we'll come in and spend a month or two or whatever and just knock it out of the park. And then it's like, here's everything you need to continue, and then they don't do anything. And then 6 months later they come back and they say, well, how come this is all? Well, because Google changes, search changes, your competition changes, spin changes, all these things change constantly, and you have to be, you don't have to do it every day, you don't spend hours and hours every day, but we know the things you should be doing at least once a week or once a month, and what those benchmarks are, and how do you sort of keep your head above water.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just picking up keywords from what you were saying. You mentioned that you're like picky when it comes to your client. So I mean, as for me as well, like, I have standards because I want to make sure that we are going to be working long term with our clients. So we don't just onboard a client knowing that they're not ready to delegate. We ask them, do you have processes? We ask them about their business goals, because if they don't have business goals, that means that they're probably not a solid business yet,
Well, they're not ready to hand off yet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
to be successful, you have to make sure that, and it's also the same with being able to work with somebody remotely. It's the same thing. You can't just say one day, oh, now we want to have a remote person. Well, there's so many moving parts to get to that.
Yeah, it's not like you just you hire a virtual assistant today just because you don't want to do your grocery shopping.
Right.
And then the following day you want to do it yourself. You'd rather go to the grocery store and pick up some groceries. You have to be strategic when it comes to delegating, and delegating is equals to scaling. So if you don't know how to delegate properly, it's going to be hard for you to scale. So when it comes to like having standards, onboarding your clients, what are like the main characteristics that you're looking for?
Well, I think as far as clients, the most important thing is being a good listener.
Okay.
I think that's the most important thing. And then,
so the client needs to be a good listener. Oh, you need to be a good listener. How about like client wise? Like, what are you looking for exactly?
From the client?
Yeah, from the client.
Well, so typically, before it gets to that point, we've done our research, we've done our competitive research, we've looked at we've had meetings, figure out what, their needs are. We see where we kind of fit into that. If, will we be able to do that? We try to understand their timelines and make sure, that makes sense. So there's a lot of sort of Q&A that goes on. And I think that the most important thing is that it's a two-way conversation, right? And we just can't come in and say, these are the 20 things that are going to make you successful, because honestly, there's no magic bullet. But if we can come in and ask the right questions, what their needs are, understand again those pain points, then we can come back and say, okay, this is where we can help you at. And maybe we can't help you over here, but we can definitely help you with these things. And we'll have clients that, we only do the website, we only do the SEO, or we only do the PPC, or we only do the application. And then we have clients who do everything. I mean,
right.
So we're not greedy. We're not looking to do everything, but we have to figure out really where the best fit is. And if that makes sense, then I think that makes the onboarding easier. And then that's really, like I said, two-way conversations,
Exactly. And what's a red flag for you?
Oh, well, there's several in my book, but
tell me more.
Well, just starting off from the get-go, telling you how to do your job. Asking questions and not getting back to you or not getting information or just not being able to come back with it's like, okay, it can't be that hard. I mean, we can't help you unless we can understand. And
If
if you
you
can't tell us
don't
what the
communicate.
problem is,
Mm-hmm.
and I think those are sort of things where it falls down. When it comes about money, I mean, it's like, okay, that's not the first thing. Well, that's part of it, but we really need to see if there's a potential for a relationship here. Um, and so, because I mean, I had a call yesterday and it's like, okay, so I just gave you a really vague description of what we need. And now can you tell me like what it's going to cost? And so a mistake a lot of business say, well, yeah, it'll probably be, X hours and whatever an hour. But, my answer is just no, until we really understand what your needs are and we can actually write requirements for it. I really can't give you a cost. It's not that I'm hiding my cost, but it's just that I don't want to, say $5,000 and ends up being 2,000 or 10,000.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's not fair to us or the client, but when that conversation happens literally in the first phone call, then I'm a little wary.
Yeah, you need to dig deeper in order for you to really get to know the business of the client, what they need exactly. Because sometimes they think this is what they need, but on the other hand, like when you ask them a lot of questions, you're like, that's really not what you need. What you need is this, so it's kind of like
It's
not
so
correcting
true.
them, but educating them, because
Right.
they don't know about website. They don't know about SEO and SEM. So they think that they have a problem with their website because nobody's visiting their website. But as a matter of fact, the problem is with SEO because they don't have the right keywords.
Well, yeah, yeah. And I've got a saying, that, you never tell somebody their baby's ugly, So,
No.
so you have to understand it and figure out, and that things may not be right, but there's also things that are right. So you figure out, and especially in SEO and PPC, is what you're looking for is opportunities. And so, and so you're looking for how you can improve organic traffic, then maybe you're looking at how you can improve paid traffic, and you're also looking at their competitors and you're seeing what their competitors are doing successful. But then there's always nuggets of what things their competitors aren't taking advantage of that you could do for your client. And so it's being able to understand all those pieces and then setting up the strategy based on those opportunities, which typically for us starts with implementing best practices. It's like if you don't have best practices from the get-go, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on, AdWords or social or whatever. If you don't have your best practice organic stuff set up, it's never going to give them what it's really capable of. And so typically
Exactly.
it's like starting at A and then maybe getting to M, and then now here's then, the opportunities that we can grow your business or something. So
Exactly. Yeah. And so why do you think delegation is important when it comes to scaling a company?
well, so I would list, there's pieces of that. So one is, like I said, either just there's somebody that already could do something, or you're just transferring it to them, or delegating is really taking something that's here, you haven't really done this, so now I want you to start doing this. And I think I mentioned in my email about sort of there's this kind of proven IPO approach, which is information, permission, and outcome. And so, so the biggest downfall, and it still happens to us all the time, is, getting the user enough information. Do they have the logins? Do they have, the client information? Do they have access to whatever? Did you tell them to go out and buy a bunch of stuff and they don't have a credit card or way to pay for it? I mean, getting them the information that they need to be successful is the number one thing going into it. And then, the hardest thing about delegating is because there's always this sort of assumption that that'll just be easier if I just did it myself. Why do I want to spend 5 hours onboarding somebody to figure this out when I could just spend an hour doing it myself? So you've got to give them basic permission. You've got to make them responsible for it. You just got to say, okay, I'm not even going to pay any attention. I'm just going to, here it is. You go run with this and make it go, so that they then can build confidence and feel like I did something. And you don't want to start out giving them like the hardest thing in the company to do. You want to start out giving them something that they can be successful at, kind of baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, especially with people who are hiring virtual assistants, um, I think most people, they think that when they assign a task to a virtual assistant, they expect for the virtual assistant to get it right the first time.
First step, which is
Which,
the final thing. The O part is outcome. So the
mm-hmm,
outcome is really, what is your expectation for the outcome? And typically you have to dial that back initially, right? And then so it becomes a learning experience. and then you have to be able to let them know that how they were successful or what they could do to do better, or maybe what they, hear some helpful advice or whatever, or maybe they just kind of learned it, or maybe they learned, maybe their outcome was doing it better than what you used to do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think you have to have that, and I think that's hard, and it was hard for me, and I think it's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to be able to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, you did it. It wasn't how I would have done it, but we still got to the same point that we wanted to get to, right? We had the same outcome for the client.
Yeah, exactly. And I think patience is very important when it comes to delegation as well, because again, a lot of people don't want to train their VAs, and which is sometimes it's okay if you don't train your VAs, like especially for social media management. If you hire a VA, you shouldn't train your VA on that specific skill set, because you're hiring someone who is already good at
Right.
social media management. But what you need to train your VA with is, what is your company culture? What is your brand identity? How exactly you want your graphic done? Because graphics can be subjective sometimes. You may
Totally.
like pink. I don't like pink. I want darker colors.
But I didn't tell you that I didn't like pink.
Yes. How about purple?
But again, that's that information part. You got to give enough information at the beginning, and like I said, that's typically where delegation falls down at. Even if it's just a little thing like not having a username and password for something. It's just making sure they have all the information they need. That includes the background information, like you were saying, culture. Knowing about the client, knowing about the company. How do you do that? And I think that's the hardest part of onboarding and in delegation, is just how do you get the information. So if you have good if you have good standard operating procedure process to where we're going to just loom everything we do, like when we started working with you guys, we had a loom video of this is what we need done. It wasn't everything, but it was a starting point, and allows them to be communication based on that.
Yeah, that's true. So what can you say to business owners who are still not delegating?
No, it's gonna, it's 12-hour days, 80-hour weeks till you figure it out. So, and not that I work that much less, but it's a better quality work. And like you were saying, the most important thing, providing that vision, providing, sort of getting out of front of things. And I like the client relationship part of it. That's what I like best. If I could do that all day and just talk to clients, I would do that. But there's all the other stuff that's got to happen for the clients to be happy. So that has to be delegated to be going on at the same time.
That's true. You cannot talk to your clients every day while working on the client's project. It may affect the quality of work that you're providing for your client, or it may affect your communication with your client, because you cannot do both things at the same time, especially when you have a lot of clients. It's just crazy. You know what? Like when I was a VA before, like I love working for my clients. So, I love doing all the tasks for them. I love communicating with them. I just love providing for them, providing services to them. But now that I have an agency and I am like a master in delegation, I don't want to go back to what I was doing before,
Right.
Am I passionate about, working for my clients? Yes, but my passion now is bigger than that. My passion now is to help more clients and help more, people overseas to have a more stable income. And so I don't think I can do those things all by myself.
But that's great to hear, because that's why small business is truly the economic driver for any economy. Because really, our job is not to grow our business. Our job is to hire more people, provide more jobs, provide them with, income and salaries. They can buy, houses, raise families, get their kids go to college. That's really what we do as entrepreneurs. It's not just about how much money can I make and how big a house can I have. It's about how many people can we affect in a positive
to expand.
way.
Yeah.
And that's why small business is so important for economies, because while you see the $1 billion Apples and all of that, it's really all those thousands and thousands of business that keep hiring people, keep bringing them back. And that's why even in the service industry is so important. I mean, those are jobs, and it's good because we're finally getting more money, and restaurant owners, especially big restaurant groups, are realizing they got to provide benefits. And it used to be like you get a job in a service business and it was always horizontal. There was never any vertical, upward mobility, right? Well, you got to provide that. And even in companies, small like us, we have to do that. There has to be somewhere you can go, or at least, feel like you're getting better. It's not just more money, which even today is even a bigger thing. It's the wellness, and, are you giving them flexible hours? Do they include, a gym membership? Are you making sure, we have developers will give 3 or 4 weeks vacation. Now it's PTO, and they just never take it because they're always so afraid that they're going to miss something, right? And so literally you just got to say, you've got to take it off. I mean, we were doing like, your birthday week off, just because it was like, you got to take time off,
That's awesome. Yeah. And not a lot of companies are providing that for their employees. And I think that's probably why a lot of employees here in the States, leave their job, because they don't feel like they are being valued by their employers.
But that's what you're doing such a good job of, is by giving, no matter where your workers or employees are at, by giving them, the opportunity to have a really good job that they can, be proud of and love doing. I mean, that's a huge thing. To me, that's what makes the success of the business, is being able to do that.
That's true. So being in a business for like, I'm not good with math. So 93 to 22. So that's like
20
plus.
30 years will be 20.
Oh my gosh. You're like married to your business 30 years. Do you have your business anniversary? Do you celebrate that?
Yeah, it's in
annually?
July.
It's in July.
I think it's like the 14th or 15th or something.
Wow. So I'm just really curious, because you've been in business for almost 30 years. Were there a time when you feel like you wanted to give up?
Oh, sure. You have those days. I have those days still now. It's just frustrating when you have all these things and everything should be great, and then somebody leaves, or you're looking for a new person, or whatever, you have a pandemic. I mean, it's just it's frustrating, but you just have to believe in what you do and why you do it. And again, that's where sort of those client relationships come back to you. That's really what keeps you going, is that you're still doing a good job, you're meeting their expectations. I mean, that's what keeps you going. But I'm kind of, I'm 61, so I'm not old, but it's like, is there an exit strategy? Are you going to do this till like you're 80, or you fall over, or what are you doing? And my goal, there's kind of two ways. One is you can just kind of sell the company and walk away. But for me, I decided last year, for the next 3 years, to get to our 30th anniversary, that it's about really trying to grow the company, to build in redundancies, to build in the best systems and processes that we can, so the company can kind of run sort of on its own, so that provides job security for the employees, and they're not sort of wondering, what's John doing? Is he going to flake out and just walk away from it? And so I think so my exit strategy is based on making the company more successful, so that it's more stable, and will provide, beyond that. So
yeah, so that even when you decide to retire, the company can run even without you,
Which is why I have to work myself out of the business, right? I mean,
yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. So how do you do that? Which people do you need? What's most important? So we're slowly filling in these levels until it fills me in. So
Exactly. So any words of wisdom that you want to share with our fellow entrepreneurs who are listening to this episode right now?
No, like I said, I think the most important thing is communication and expectations. I mean, I think if you just every day, whether that's with your team, your employees, your remote, your in-house, your clients, your vendors, everybody, it's just all about sort of being on the same page and being clear about it,
I agree. Communication and expectations, they're very crucial. They're like the bread and butter of your company. Yeah. So
well, it doesn't have to be hard. It's like we have, and we've worked with agencies, and I've had really good employees go on to big, really big agencies, and they talk about, sales and marketing will just, here's the job, we sold it for, 1,000 hours of development. It's going to be done by Christmas. And come Christmas, every developer is working 12, 14-hour days, through their Christmas holiday because they're off schedule, because there was no way it could have ever been done. I mean, you have to start out saying, I mean, not that every proposal or whatever is perfect, but you just sort of have to try to get it right as close as you can to be able to budget that. And we don't work in our industry. It's typical for developers to work 60 hours a week. I mean, it's just not unheard of. But most of our guys work 40, 45 hours a week, and like a 50-hour week would be a lot. And then we have rollouts sometimes late at night because they're after service, maintenance hours. Right. And we might have something on the weekend maybe once or twice a year. But and again, from a business point of view, that's not good because you're not maximizing all those resources, right? But from a personal point of view and a culture and a lifestyle point of view, it's really important for everybody to have the expectation of, hey, you're not expecting me to work 60 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to set that expectation because we don't want our employees or our staff to like overwork themselves, because that's gonna that's gonna affect the quality of their job. So where can people find you online, John?
We're at 305spin.com is the company, and then our softserveseo.com is our SEO. So
awesome. Well, this has been a great interview, John. Like, I've learned a lot from you, and I actually have a lot of questions for you still, but I know we're limited on time, so
that's fine. We'll reach out. I love talking with you. And like I said, I'm always thinking too, it's like, what is it that we can have you guys do more for us? And then, all of that. So I think that's just, like I said, it's that two-way communication thing. So
exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Christy. Have a great.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want to listen to the full episode, please type in Master Delegator on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast channels, or simply click the link in the description box below. Also, please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you again on the next episode. Bye.